This woman should be in jail. Literally, Hillary Clinton should be behind bars. And so should the people who worked for her who did this. This is so blatantly corrupt. She wanted to distract from her email scandal. She cooked up a plan to accuse Trump of being a Russian agent in order to distract from her own legitimate scandal.
Meanwhile, we're still waiting for accountability on the whole Russia collusion made-up story.
Yes.
Now that DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, has released all of those classified documents, we're actually seeing who was behind all of this. Do you want to see indictments?
I absolutely want to see indictments, Maria. Look, of course, you got to have the law follow the facts here. You don't just indict people to indict people. You indict people because they broke the law.
Few political figures represent defeat as clearly as Hillary Clinton, and Megyn Kelly, alongside J.D. Vance, methodically break her down step by step. They reveal how her endless excuses, carefully staged reinventions, and fixation on a so-called destiny transformed her into the very symbol of political entitlement. She wasn't a trailblazer. She became a cautionary tale. Losing to Donald Trump despite having nearly every advantage in her favor, and then refusing to quietly fade from the spotlight, Hillary's real legacy is not one of groundbreaking achievement, but of becoming history's running joke. And Kelly, with Vance, ensure that this truth cannot be ignored.
Disgusted. I'm disgusted. To me, this seems so fucking blatantly political. Forgive me. Sorry. And it's upsetting me.
What is going on?
It's just disgusting, Arthur. The Hillary Clinton juxtaposition is the most compelling one. She scrubbed her servers. She destroyed her cell phones. She had classified information that she did not turn over. And Comey came out and said, there's no crime.
To try to silence him and shut him up. And then consider, just yesterday, one of the chief surrogates of Kamala Harris's campaign is Hillary Clinton. And you know what Hillary Clinton said yesterday? She said that misinformation should be met with criminal penalties. That we ought to throw people in jail and silence them if they say something that Hillary Clinton disagrees.
Hillary Clinton lingers like a political ghost that refuses to vacate the house of power. Megyn Kelly rips into her legacy with surgical ruthlessness, laying bare the emptiness behind a meticulously manufactured image. Hillary was framed as inevitable, the crowned queen of American politics, the woman destined to smash through the highest glass ceiling. Yet instead, she transformed into the most recognizable emblem of defeat in contemporary political history. She became the candidate who managed to lose the contest even when the entire rulebook appeared written to guarantee her victory.
Hillary Clinton is back doing a late-night tour. She had some thoughts on this boiling down to Trump versus Biden again.
Get over yourself. Those are the two choices.
Yeah, love that.
Right? And
good.
you know, one is old and effective and compassionate, has a heart, and really cares about people. And one is old and has been charged with 91 felonies.
Megyn Kelly uncovers humor in Hillary's absolute failure to convey any sense of authenticity. Each attempt at reinvention resembled less a natural evolution and more a carefully packaged marketing pitch. She was the pragmatic centrist whenever Wall Street's money was flowing. She became the feminist warrior when college students filled the streets in protest. She played the doting grandmother with a polished laugh when suburban women needed coaxing. And she assumed the mantle of identity politics champion whenever progressives held the microphone. Yet the core problem with Hillary is that she was all of these characters on paper, but none of them in genuine reality. Every persona seemed borrowed, every slogan crafted in a focus group, and every laugh painstakingly rehearsed. Kelly cuts her down as less of a leader and more of a lab-engineered experiment in what a politician is supposed to mimic.
Hillary Clinton decided to weigh in on this snub. Greta and Margot, while it can sting to win the box office but not take home the gold, Your millions of fans love you. You're both so much more than Keno. Is that a reference to the movie? I didn't see it. And then here's the capper. At the end, hashtag Hillary Barbie. She's trying to make that a thing. Some of the reaction online to this, I love this. Clearly, Greta and Margot should have campaigned in Michigan and Wisconsin. Hashtag.
J.D. Vance strikes directly at the jugular, framing Hillary as the living symbol of political entitlement. She carried the belief that the presidency was her inevitable inheritance, not because of bold ideas or a compelling vision, but simply because she had lingered in the corridors of power long enough to claim it as her due. Vance underscores how Hillary approached politics as if America were a monarchy, where her marriage to Bill Clinton served as the golden ticket to eventual coronation. She projected herself not as a candidate humbly seeking the trust of voters, but as a ruler chastising her subjects for failing to bow quickly enough.
But if you look at what Tulsi and Kash Patel have revealed in the last couple of weeks, I don't know how anybody can look at that and say that there wasn't aggressive violations of the law. What they basically did is they defrauded the American people in order to take Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign talking points and turn them into intelligence by defrauding the American people, defrauding the intelligence.
Kelly zeroes in on the sheer absurdity of Hillary's endless excuses. After her crushing defeat in 2016 to Donald Trump, now sitting as the current president, Hillary embarked on what could only be described as the world's longest-running blame tour. Russia, sexism, Facebook memes, James Comey, even the weather itself. Every possible scapegoat was paraded out, except the one staring back at her in the mirror. Kelly skewers her for treating accountability like a foreign language she never bothered to learn. In Hillary's universe, she was forever the smartest person in the room, a victim of history's betrayal, misunderstood by ordinary Americans, and sabotaged by invisible forces outside her control. The possibility that her own arrogance, dishonesty, and utter lack of charisma might have cost her the presidency never once appeared on her list of explanations.
How dare she? She puts out this tweet, and it's a picture of her, a much younger Hillary, and the caption on the hat reads, "But her emails." And she writes in her tweet, "Bringing this back in light of recent news. Get a limited edition But Her Emails hat and support Onward Together groups working to strengthen our democracy." The nerve of this woman to have committed federal crimes and to have gotten off because James Comey didn't have the spine to bring.
Vance digs even deeper, dissecting how Hillary's entire career exposed the hypocrisy of America's political elite. She professed to stand with the working class while simultaneously forging close alliances with the Wall Street executives who helped hollow out Middle America. She proclaimed herself a champion of women's rights, while viciously discrediting the women who had accused Bill Clinton of misconduct. She preached about climate change with a moralistic tone, yet regularly boarded private jets to shuttle across the globe. Hillary's brand was constructed on a pedestal of moral superiority, but her record was littered with contradictions that shredded every slogan she plastered on a campaign poster. Kelly, meanwhile, never overlooks the comedy in Hillary's relentless awkwardness. Every staged attempt to appear relatable collapsed into a viral spectacle. From the infamous hot sauce in her purse stunt to dabbing on Ellen, Hillary came across less like a cultural icon and more like the out-of-touch aunt desperately trying to be cool, only to humiliate herself at the family reunion. Kelly drives home the irony of watching a multi-millionaire, decades removed from the struggles of ordinary life, attempting to convince voters she was just like them. It wasn't merely inauthentic, it was an outright insult to the intelligence of the electorate.
They would take something that supported a Hillary Clinton campaign talking point and they would overemphasize it and exaggerate it. They took anything that actually contradicted that narrative and they buried it deep. And through that, they actually laundered Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign talking points through the American intelligence services. That's a violation of the people's trust. That's a violation of what our intelligence services should be doing, and I absolutely think they broke the law. You're going to see a lot of people get indicted.
J.D. Vance draws on his own middle American roots to drive home the glaring disconnect. Hillary's campaign speeches about understanding the struggles of working-class families rang hollow to the very communities she rarely bothered to set foot in. Her brand of empathy was not born from lived experience, but filtered through the lenses of consultants, wealthy donors, and high-dollar fundraisers. Vance casts her as the textbook embodiment of coastal elitism, an Ivy League creation who regarded flyover country as though it were some foreign territory. That cultural gulf, he argues, is precisely why she could never ignite authentic enthusiasm, no matter how much money or media spotlight was funneled into her campaigns. Megyn Kelly underscores the bitter irony. Hillary Clinton possessed virtually everything a modern politician could dream of: universal name recognition, decades of government experience, a disciplined network of loyal operatives, the blessing of a popular president in Barack Obama, a staggering campaign war chest, and the unshakable backing of media outlets and cultural elites. And yet, with all of that firepower, she lost to Donald Trump, a political outsider who had none of those institutional advantages. Kelly frames this not as some bizarre accident of history, but as a devastating indictment of Hillary herself. Because you don't lose with that kind of arsenal, unless, at the core, you are simply terrible at politics.
Clinton, of course, is the original election denier.
Well, she's not an election denier.
She absolutely was the OG election denier.
She came out to concede the election to Trump.
And then spent the next 4 years saying he was illegitimate.
She didn't say he was an illegitimate.
Yes, she did.
You tell me exactly what she said.
She said those exact words repeatedly.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president.
Okay.
As
She
done.
came out that night.
She
in
conceded
her
the
dark
election
purple,
and then
something
spent
Donald-
the next 4 years trying to convince us it was not legitimate.
You can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
Kelly weaves it into a larger theme. Hillary Clinton wasn't merely a weak candidate. She became the very face of a broken political order. She embodied the arrogance of an elite class that believed it could manufacture consent, that voters were obligated to accept her simply because the establishment had decreed it. But the 2016 election shattered that illusion, leaving Hillary as the monument to its collapse. Rather than ascending as the first woman president, she ended up as the politician who proved, once and for all, that inevitability is a myth. Kelly also digs into Hillary's refusal to fade gracefully. Every few months, she resurfaces, offering a new critique, a fresh comment, or yet another hint that perhaps she should have been president all along. It's less politics than haunting. She lingers like the guest who refuses to leave the party, clutching a drink in the corner while reminiscing about her glory days. And the more she insists she was right, the more she cements herself as undeniably wrong. Kelly notes that Hillary has devolved into less of a stateswoman and more of a parody of herself, clinging desperately to relevance while the rest of the world moves forward without her.
Just weighed in publicly again on why she lost. And just in case you were thinking it was because she didn't go to Wisconsin, you are wrong. It is you, women of America. It is your fault. She now sits down for an interview and decides that the reason she didn't win is American females. That they didn't like that she wasn't perfect.
J.D. Vance sharpens the blade with a dose of historical perspective. He likens Hillary to past leaders who confused power with destiny, only to be undone by their own hubris. Her downfall, he argues, wasn't the result of lacking money, influence, or resources. It was the absence of authenticity. Vance emphasizes that in the modern political era, voters can overlook scandal, forgive mistakes, and even stomach controversy. But the one thing they refuse to tolerate is phoniness. And Hillary radiated phoniness in every setting, whether it was a speech, a glossy campaign ad, or a carefully staged photo op. In the end, Americans didn't simply reject her candidacy, they rejected
everything she symbolized: entitlement, arrogance, and elitism dressed up as leadership. Megyn Kelly then zeroes in on Hillary's feminist branding. She worked tirelessly to package herself as the ultimate champion for women, but her record told a far different story. The smears she leveled at Bill Clinton's accusers, her silence in the face of abuses inside her own circle, and her conveniently selective outrage whenever politics demanded it, all exposed the brand as little more than a hollow marketing strategy. Kelly skewers Hillary for wielding feminism like a political weapon when it served her interests, only to discard it when it threatened her power. For women who yearn for a genuine role model, Hillary became not a beacon of inspiration, but a profound disappointment.
Should really bother the American people. What do you want our intelligence community to be doing? I want them to be catching bad guys. I want them to be making sure that terrorists aren't going to kill innocent American civilians. I don't want them laundering Hillary Clinton's campaign talking points into the American media and giving them this air of legitimacy. It is sick and it's disgusting. It hurt the intelligence community, it hurt the American people, and it hurt the first Trump administration.
Megyn Kelly closes the roast by pointing not to Hillary's legacy, but to the glaring absence of one. Decades in public life, endless headlines, countless television appearances. And yet, what endures? Not sweeping reforms, not unifying leadership, not even a clear, lasting vision for the nation's future. What lingers instead is the story of a politician who believed the presidency was owed to her, and who, even years later, cannot accept that the American people disagreed. Hillary Clinton's true legacy is not about shattering barriers, but about proving that arrogance, no matter how well-funded, how carefully branded, or how powerfully marketed, is destined to collapse under its own weight. Together, Kelly and Vance dismantle Hillary not merely as a failed candidate, but as the embodiment of a failed idea, the illusion that power belongs to elites, the myth that branding can substitute for authenticity, the belief that destiny is somehow greater than democracy. Hillary Clinton's career rested on all three illusions, and all three imploded spectacularly. And so the roast leaves her exactly where she has remained since 2016, on the outside, looking in, still convinced history got it wrong, while the rest of the world laughs at the irony of a woman who had everything at her disposal and ended up with nothing but excuses.
And now, because it's Donald Trump, who, by the way, had the power to declassify, unlike Hillary, and he looks like he's regaining steam to recapture this nomination, he's got to be charged. And it looks like he's probably going to be charged in Georgia, too. That's the third. That would be the third indictment. And Jack Smith may have a fourth indictment up his sleeve because he's investigating him for Jan 6th, too.
The strangest part of Hillary Clinton's saga is the way she still speaks as though the nation is secretly waiting for her grand comeback. J.D. Vance mocks this delusion, noting how Hillary treats every speech, every podcast appearance, and every interview like an audition for a role no one is casting. She doesn't seem to recognize the laughter that trails behind her attempts at reinvention. Instead, she convinces herself that if she repeats the same lines louder and more frequently, history will eventually bend to her will. But history does not reward persistence without authenticity. It punishes it. And Hillary stands as the definitive case study. Vance draws a sharp line between ambition and obsession. Ambition, he explains, can build nations. Obsession, however, erodes reputations. Hillary crossed that boundary long ago. She is no longer chasing the presidency. She is chasing validation. Every excuse she recites, every memoir she publishes, every public appearance she makes is less about politics and more about persuading herself that she truly deserved what the voters denied her. In this way, Hillary's post-2016 career has morphed into an extended therapy session staged on the world's largest platform, with the public unwillingly cast as her audience, while she processes her political grief.
And here's the thing. If you're willing, my friends, if you are willing to throw a person in jail because you disagree with what they say, then you're going to be willing to put a bullet in their head too. So the Democrats, I call on every leader in this country, not just tone down the rhetoric, but tone down the censorship. Let's have a debate with one another. That's what Americans do. Stop trying to silence people you disagree with. And I think if we have that debate, if we have that conversation, I really believe that the American people are going to make Donald J. Trump the next president of the United States. But it's not going to happen.
Kelly unleashes her cutting humor to dismantle the carefully constructed image of Hillary as merely a victim of sexism. Was sexism president politics? Absolutely. But, as Megyn points out, sexism didn't compel Hillary to cozy up to Wall Street power brokers. It didn't make her delete thousands of emails under investigation. It didn't cause her to neglect campaigning in Wisconsin and Michigan. And it certainly didn't force her to laugh off scandal after scandal with a tone so dismissive it made her appear completely out of touch. These were her choices, her flaws, and her consequences. Reducing all of them to sexism isn't just dishonest. It's an insult to the intelligence of women who expected far more from her. J.D. Vance digs into the broader cultural rejection of Hillary. He argues that her defeat was never just about a single election. It was, in reality, a referendum on a style of politics that Americans had grown tired of. The age of perfectly packaged candidates, armed with consultant-approved slogans and poll-tested sound bites, was collapsing. And Hillary Clinton was the final, overproduced product of that dying system. By choosing Donald Trump, voters weren't simply rejecting Hillary as a person. They were rejecting the establishment she embodied. Vance drives home the brutal point. Hillary wasn't the victim of bad luck. She was the perfect symbol of everything the people wanted to tear down and set on fire.
Speaking of Hillary, her op-ed, which is really pretty spectacular in the New York Times. First of all, my team just showed me this. Have you seen the cover for her new book? It's something lost, something gained. Gained is with a Freudian slip. And like the amount of retouching on this face I haven't seen since, Joan Rivers had her 15th surgery. God love Joan. I don't know what she's trying to be with this soft focus. My executive producer, Steve Krakauer, is like, she looks nothing like herself.
Kelly adds another layer of mockery by highlighting Hillary's odd obsession with staying relevant. Every time a political crisis erupts, Hillary reappears with an "I told you so" tone, as if anyone had been waiting for her commentary. She longs to be seen as the voice of wisdom, yet instead comes across like the person who refuses to leave the group chat, posting observations no one bothers to read. Kelly twists the knife further by noting that Hillary has devolved from a once serious political figure into a meme, remembered less for accomplishments and more for awkward soundbites and embarrassing failures. J.D. Vance delivers the final blow by framing Hillary's legacy. She won't be remembered as the first female president, but as the cautionary tale who proved that inevitability is nothing more than a myth. She possessed every resource a candidate could dream of: money, media, connections, and power, yet she still failed to connect with ordinary voters because they saw through the act. Her story stands as a stark warning to future politicians. Authenticity cannot be faked, destiny cannot be demanded, and the moment you treat leadership as your birthright, the people will rise up and strip it away.